Okay guys, here's video 2. This one will end with Jefferson's presidency and the War of 1812. One interesting thing that does occur during Jefferson's presidency is the assassination of Hamilton. Hamilton was actually a good man when it came to the United States, and there was a conflict between whether Aaron Burr or Thomas Jefferson would actually be president and be the top man in the Democratic Republican Party. Well, Hamilton thinks Aaron Burr is an absolute scoundrel, and the Federalists aren't really thrilled with Jefferson and his views on nullification, but Hamilton views Burr as just a corrupt individual, one who should not run the presidency of the United States, whereas Thomas Jefferson is in fact an honest, virtuous man. And so he insults him, and he besmirches his honor, so to speak, and they duel at Weehawken, New Jersey, and Aaron Burr ends up killing Alexander Hamilton. Jefferson's presidency wanted to simplify things, decrease the size of the Army and Navy, reduce taxes, reduce the power of the National Bank, and was more of a free trader. He focused also on westward expansion and scientific discovery. We'll see that in the next unit. Interesting policies. Does he seem more Democratic in our context or Republican? The War of 1812. The War of 1812 is one that sometimes gets forgotten in United States history. It's sometimes called the Second Revolution. The War of 1812 has several reasons that it occurred. One is the British didn't abandon all their forts in the Ohio Valley and the Great Lakes. They were supposed to at the end of the American Revolution, but they did not. They also stirred up the Native Americans, encouraging them to attack the Americans, maybe perhaps hoping to block the expanse of the colonies and maintain some of their North American holdings. The British would also inspect ships and occasionally take U.S. soldiers, or U.S. sailors rather, into impressment, which means they would be forced into the British Navy. All these things, of course, made the United States upset and led to conflict. Some of the reasons for war, of course, are nationalism. The United States is now a nation, and unlike the Revolution, where we're trying to figure out if we are a country or not, we know we're a country now. And there's a national pride that's evoked in the War of 1812, and we'll see that in some of the images and the pictures that come up. Revenge against the Native Americans, revenge against the British, but especially expansion. Look at Virginia, North Carolina, Kentucky, and Tennessee, right? The movement west into the continent. We have to remove the British, and unfortunately, we have to subdue the Native Americans. I guess we don't have to, but that's what the colonists wanted to do. They wanted to move into these territories and take the land and use it. And the British and Native Americans were continuing to be an obstacle. The United States is not strong yet. It's not ready to fight this war. Look at the British naval blockade. The British Navy blockades almost the entire eastern coast and limits trade in the United States. And not everybody's for this. The North is somewhat concerned that the South and West is leading this charge, and they call the war Mr. Madison's War. Here's some of that nationalism I talked about. There's Andrew Jackson. Andrew Jackson will be one of the heroes of this war and will actually win a massive battle in New Orleans after the peace treaty is actually concluded. But he'll come out as a war hero, and he'll gain great fame through this. Look at the U.S. Army. Now they have uniforms. They are federal, and of course there are Kentucky riflemen and some of the frontiersmen with Jackson. There's the flag. It's representative of a new country, and it evokes that nationalism. Down below is Fort McHenry in Baltimore. Fort McHenry is attacked by the British Navy, and there's a man on a boat who observes this, Francis Scott Key, who writes the Star-Spangled Banner. Notice the real American-looking, you've got the flag, you've got the uniforms, and you've got the idea that the country is now one as opposed to 13 colonies, and this evokes nationalism and nationalistic pride. The British score some victories. The war doesn't go well at first. This is the White House. This is the Capitol in Washington, D.C. being burned. The British do burn Washington. Dolly Madison, James Madison's wife, is credited with removing some pictures and some artifacts from the White House before the British burn it. Eventually, the United States does prevail. Britain surrenders again. And this is really the end of Britain in the United States. They are removed from the forts. They do not support the Native Americans anymore with military aid or anything along those lines. And this seals the victory that was won originally in the American Revolution after the victory of Yorktown.